I'm coming at you. I want to tell you a few stories today. It's me and my wife Julie. I'm Roger. Uh, the stories we're going to tell. Uh, we're going to tell you the stories of our first Dogman encounter. But in order for me to tell you the first time we ever saw this creature up close, uh, I got to step it back just a little bit and tell you two smaller stories, and so you can kind of get the idea of where this thing came from and how our lives kind of intertwine with it. Uh, we're from East Tennessee. We lived out in the country at this time and lived on a farm. Down in this where we lived, it's a little old town. There's maybe 3,000 to 4,000 people in the town. But we lived on this back road in this town, which was a good size highway, and you know it was several miles long. You know, where we lived on out in the country, we lived in this valley along a river, and we the farm that we lived on, we shared with it was me and her son, his wife, and their little kids, their babies. And I'm not sure Jalen wasn't in the picture when the first time happened, was he? Was he in the picture yet? The youngest one? Yeah, he was. He had just been born. And the property that we lived on, they were two mobile homes. Uh, they lived in the front mobile home. We lived in behind them in another mobile home. And in the mobile home they lived in, the highway ran in front of it. The highway that we lived on. When I say it was dark out there, it got dark out there at night time. You had a few houses out there with porch lights. There was a street light. There were two. One probably maybe 3 football fields from our house. But you gotta understand there's trees and you know there's a lot of trees and things in the area, so that street light does not like show a whole lot. It gives you like it's vaguely I guess dim. Um, and the other one was probably a mile up the highway from us. Maybe not that far. Maybe I exaggerated that just a little bit. Maybe a half a mile. Uh, but when we came in, the first time that me and her came in contact with it, her son, his wife didn't get to see it that night. We were up at their house. You know, like I said, the newborn had just been, you know, he had just been born, and you know, we were up there, and this is something we did quite often, you know, sit there and talk and eat and blah blah blah. And this was pretty late at night. It's maybe 12ish, 1ish. But where he was a newborn, nobody smoked in the house, so we'd go outside on the porch smoke. Well, that night I went out, lit a cigarette. Everybody else was coming. You know, they were all gonna smoke because we went out together. You know, so we could talk and everything. And but I went out ahead of them and started smoking. And as I go out from the street light that was up there and the few little house lights that scattered about all the way up through there, uh, I see this. I look up the highway, and coming down the middle of the highway is this massive creature. I At first I thought, oh no, a cow's got out, or maybe it's a bear. Um, I know, yeah, people say there's, you know, there's not a big bear population, but they are there. But you know, I'm thinking of animals that I know, and as the more I looked at this thing did not look like either. As it got closer, it was coming straight down the middle of the highway. So I'm just like, whoa, you know, looking at this thing, and I just ease back and I open the door, and I holler at everybody inside. I was like, guys, come here, you gotta check this out. Well, my wife comes out. The other two hadn't made it out yet, and walking down as I get her, and she comes out. This thing comes up on 2 legs, It's now walking on two legs, uh, dead center of the highway. Uh, and as it's walking, it doesn't hear us. We're sitting there just smoking. But you got to remember, it's a highway. To the left of us, there's a big curve, and there's a car coming, and the headlights, and it shines, and the right directly across the street from where we're at is a big bunch of woods. There's a barbed wire fence. It's a cattle field, and then there's this big bunch of woods. Well, a car's coming. This thing hears it. It's on two legs. This thing makes one leap. I'm talking one leap over that 5-string barbed wire fence, and it's gone in the woods, disappeared. They come out and they said, her son came out and his wife, and they were like, "What were y'all talking about? Where was it at?" And me and my wife were just in awe. We were just like, "Whoa," you know. Well, some time goes by. I'm not exactly sure how long. It's sometime later on, some months down the road, and we're all at their house, and his wife was going to the grocery store and do some errands, and this is, later at night. It's not as late as it was that night. Well, her son, he worked third shift. I can't remember if he was in bed asleep or whatnot, but me and my wife get a phone call. It's his wife. She is hysterical. She is screaming, "I have hit something. I have hit something." She was on the road we lived on, but she was at the very beginning of it, towards that area. Somewhere, was that right? It was, wasn't it, honey? It was. She was more down towards the school and stuff, wasn't she? Well, anyway, she is hysterical. She said this thing was in the middle of the road, eating on something. She come around a curve. There, the thing was in the middle of the road, eating some kind of dead carcass, some animal. But she's hysterical, and we're trying to get her to calm down. She's crying. She said, "I've hit it. I'm sitting here." She said, "I hit it." And the one thing that came out of her mouth more than anything, she said it had, what was it, human eyes? She said and it looked right at me as I hit it, and it looked like a dog.
A big dog.
And we're telling her, well, there's no dogs, that big. She's like, was it a wolf? No. She said this thing didn't. She said it came up on two legs. Is that what she said? I'm pretty sure that's what she said when it jumped up on two legs and took off like a bat out of. But we finally get her to calm down a little bit to get her home. We say, "Will the car run? If it does, get home. We'll check it out when you get here." Sure enough, she gets there. She's tore to pieces, and she was tore up for probably 2-3 weeks after. It really upset her. It was almost like she had hit a human, because that's kind of what she said with the eyes. They were human eyes, This thing looked like it had human eyes. But it had a big snout, and pointy ears, and it was all scraggly, looking like it had the mange. I think she said the mange too, didn't she? And we're just, I'm thinking, no, she's just misidentified something. My wife was too. She's like, she's just misidentified something out here. And anyway, she got back to the house, and by that time, her husband, she's trying to console her, and get her to calm down. And we go out with a flashlight, look at the car. The car's got some pretty extensive damage. The hood was damaged, the grill was busted out, the front clip was broke, headlight was not completely out. And there's this hair sticking out of the front of this car. There's patches of hair or whatnot. But like I said, we were thinking it was, your mind can play tricks on you, especially at nighttime, and with headlights on, and you think you see things that you don't see, and we thought, well, maybe it was, it could have been a cow, it could have been a wolf, it could have been anything. So we never, we cleaned the car the best we could. I can't remember, was there blood on the car? I can't even remember. But anyway, we cleaned the car up and fixed it and forgot about it. Until about 2 weeks later. somewhere around, what was it, about 2 weeks, baby. And we always had a habit where we lived there that we would, especially all through the day, we would walk up to their house, they'd walk back to us, and so on, so on. Well, this was probably maybe like a Friday night, and it seems like maybe me and her son were both off work, and we were all there. At first, earlier in the night, we were up there having a good time, talking, blah blah blah, cooking. Well, I went home. Well, no, me and my wife both had went home. Well, we were when we were up there, had been making some type of chicken dinner. I don't remember what it was. Um, but they called us and said, your food's ready, or the food's ready. Y'all want to come up and get you?" And my wife was like, "I'll go up and get our plates," and you know, uh, you just sit tight, and watch TV and whatnot. So okay, um, never, never nothing bad out there. There's it's just a habit that we did. I go walking back and forth, even though it didn't matter what time of night. It's probably about 10 o'clock at night, and she walks up, gets her food. She's gone for a few minutes. She says something, talks to them, telling them good night, and we're going after we eat, we're going to bed, and they're going to bed or whatnot. Well, uh, all of a sudden she just burst through the door. She is hysterical. This is my wife. She is hysterical. She said this damn thing gave chase on me. It was roaring at me, yelling at me, or growling at me. Uh, uh, this thing is a big dog. It's got a big long snout. She said it's a nasty looking creature. And it's out there, and it chased me all the way to the door. And I'm thinking, oh man, she's crazy. I'm thinking, maybe a coyote's out there, because there's a lot of coyotes in the area, a lot of wolves in the area. No, you hear them all the time there, up there. And I'm like, well, let me go out and check. And she said, you don't understand, this thing is huge. She would not calm down. She was shaking. I mean, just truly shaking. Well, I grab a flashlight. I go outside. I go out the door. I'm looking around with the flashlight. And in between our two mobile homes, off to the left, if I was coming out my door, like this, off to the left, there's this old pickup truck. Been sitting there for years. An old Ford Lariat. The old truck don't run no more. Actually, just used it to put garbage in till we got it hauled off. That's what we used it for. And it was all in this growed up high grass. And in behind that, right beside the truck, on the other side, is this great big tree line with a chain link fence, which you can't see when it's growed up. There's a chain link fence that runs through this tree line. And, it's just all growed up. Okay. When she said that this thing's out there, my first thought was, we have this neighbor. He lives there too. He likes to drink. Okay. I'm thinking, oh man, she's seen this guy, or maybe it is a dog, or maybe it's a wolf. They're not, really prone. They was never prone to coming around us, or while we were out there, or it doesn't matter what time, they'd never come up on us or anything out there, and anything like that. We made it a point never to leave meat, any scraps or anything like that. We got rid of them so they wouldn't be attracted to the area. But my thinking was, it's either one's, maybe straggled off, and she saw that, or our next door neighbor, the one that drinks, he sometimes gets that. He didn't make it. It was never like a habit or anything, but sometimes he'd get just a little too much in him, and he would come out late at night. And he would wander around out there and, be in his building and get in his car and play music and blah, 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 But I go outside and I'm in the front yard with this flashlight. And I'm looking. And over on the other side of the truck, my beam of light comes up over the hood of the truck. And on the other side of that pickup truck, every bit of 8 foot tall, was this dog-looking creature. It had a long muzzle, pointy ears. It looked mangy looking. I mean, but it was big. I'm not saying it was 800 pounds because the thing wasn't 800 pounds, but it had the body build of a man, just a lot bigger. And it had this mangy looking fur, brownish black fur, whatever. I'm telling you, as I can remember it, the best I can remember it the first time. Uh, and there it is, these crazy, I want to say, just these glowing eyes. And this thing is almost just, I mean, really just kind of like smiling at me. I mean, it's I know that's crazy to say, and people get made fun of, to tell something like that. But this thing, it just was smiling at me. Well, like I said, this thing was like 8 foot, maybe a little bit bigger. My old lady, or my wife, is standing at the door, screaming, "Get in the damn house! Get in the house! Get in the house! Get in the house!" And I just ease back, go into the house, and I grab a handgun. I think I grabbed a 45 at the time, if I'm not mistaken, and I chambered it. I didn't know what this thing was. If it already gave chase to her, I wouldn't take any chances. We got babies in the next home right next door. I'm not taking a chance with this creature. I go back out the front door, and by this time, her son's coming out, and he'd heard the commotion because there was she was yelling at me. There was some little bit of commotion, and he comes out, and her son, by the way, is every bit of 6'7", weighs 450 pounds, and it made him look like a kitten, and he don't even to this day know what he saw. It kind of, it freaked him out. But this thing, I didn't take a shot at it. I was just trying to scare it. I wanted it away from our homes. But like I was telling you, that tree line there. Well, you got trees. I'm talking, they're this big around. It's on a farm. It's because right beside of the chain link fence, there's a cattle field. The chain link fence actually goes to a house they own there, and where it's been all growed up, there's a well house, and there's this chain link fence, and you couldn't see it at that time because of the overgrowth, but this thing had turned around on 2 legs and had stepped into that tree line, and I watched this thing fold these trees like it was nothing. I mean, they just folded down, and it stepped over the chain link fence. It didn't leap. It just stepped over onto the other side. And this is late at night. I can't remember the exact time. I want to say, like I said, it was about 10-ish, 11. I don't know. I'm not too sure. I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to lie or whatnot, but I don't remember the exact time. I just know it was late. And this thing stepped through, and I still have the gun in my hand. I didn't take a shot at it. It walked through that tree, or stepped over that chain link fence, and just disappeared into the backyard or into that cattle field. I'm not sure which one, how it exactly stepped through, which side it stepped over on. If you stepped a little to the left, you're in the cattle field. If you stepped a little to the right, you're in the backyard of that house, which was all grown up, so there's nobody lives there. It's an old pre-Civil War house, and I just looked at her son, and I'm like, what the hell was that thing? And he's like, I don't know. It was huge. I was like, you did see that, right? And he's like, yes. And here I thought, thinking it was the drunk neighbor. And no, it wasn't the drunk neighbor. It was the Dogman, as we later found out. And this is before I even knew what a Dogman was. I actually called this thing a Dogman, and she had to. And that's the name we give it. And then come to find out, this thing was, people knew about it, and it was all over, YouTube. You could see it on YouTube and all these things. It was absolutely crazy. But that was the first time that we came encounter with this thing face to face. But we have several more stories about this thing, and and all the weird things that went on at this property.
Before, well, Julie's going to tell of her second encounter with this thing. Before I turn it over to her, I wanted to let y'all know a little bit more about the land up there. And I think I mentioned in that first video that the land's owned by Julie's son's wife's mama. That's who owns. It's about 20 acres of land. I want to give you a little bit of history on this land, though. There's been a lot of death on that land. There's 2 mobile homes and a Civil War era 2-story house on the property, which me and Julie's lived in the 2-story house. But the house is it's been kind of remodeled. It's had an extension put on it, and it's at one point it was not. It was very nice. They had updated it some, and but it's still got this creepy. It's a real creepy house. Just like the land, it's real creepy. But there's been a lot of death, and what I mean by that, the guy that built that house, from what we know, he killed his whole family. He was in love, I guess what we took by it, he was in love with his stepdaughter, and he took her into the barn, which is on the property, and hung her. And then left the barn and went into the house and shot the rest of his kids and shot his wife, then killed himself. Also, my cousin's papa, back in the 70s, he was plowing with a mule, or maybe this was the 60s, I'm not too sure, but he was plowing with a mule on the property, and which is directly behind the house, and which is a big old field. And he was plowing, and the mule got spooked, and he was caught up in the plow, and the mule drug him to death on the property. We've also heard from people from in the area there that I guess old wives' tales or something, but supposedly some witches were hung on the property at one point in time in the early 1800s, as far as we could tell what they were saying. And this was on the property. I don't know if this was before that house was built or whatnot. But I was just giving you a little bit of info on the land and the house and everything that's there. Also want to give a shout out. I mean no copyright infringement on this whatsoever. I want to give a shout out to Dave Politis. I don't know if you guys watch Missing 411, if you ever kept up with that or anything. But I don't watch a lot of YouTube channels. But he is one guy I watch on here. He's done a lot of homework on what he's talking about the missing. I follow him real close. He's done a lot of research. He's spent a lot of time, a lot of money to do research on. If you've seen his stuff, he talks about the missing in the national parks and things, and there's a connection to all these missing people. If you haven't seen him. And if you haven't, you need to go check him out. And he has a YouTube channel. It's called Can-Am Missing Project. You need to go check him out. And if you do know who he is, and what I'm getting by this with the property, he talks about in most of these cases that he has with the missing 411 in these parks, there's always these boulder fields. There on that property is nothing but boulders, granite boulders. I mean, they're everywhere. Also, there's always a source of water nearby. The Holston River's less than a quarter mile behind the property. Basically, the property it stops where the river's edges begin. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of little info on that. And like I said, check him out. He's doing an awesome thing. And I also want to thank you guys for the likes, subscribes, the comments, and the views. Thank you so much. Me and Julie really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for helping spread the awareness of this thing. And with like me saying with the boaters in the water and things with that, I'm not saying that's where this thing come from. I think what he talks about is there's a lot of different things involved in it. I don't think it's any one thing, is what I was meaning by that. And I don't I don't know where this thing come from. I think as far what I read online, as far back as 1887 was the first report. Where they actually kept a record of this thing being around. So either it's been here a very long time, or it comes in and out of interdimension somehow. I'm guessing. So I don't know, but I want to thank you guys again, and I'm going to turn this over to Julie. She's going to tell you about this encounter. Guys, she's new to the camera too, so just bear with her.
I ain't scared though. And thank everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna tell you about my second encounter. I had went and got a friend. She had some medical conditions and was on a walker. I gave her a heads up. We were being stopped by something, and it was big, and she laughed at me, which everybody laughed at us when we first told them. But anyway, I went and got her on a Friday, and she was arguing with her boyfriend. That's why she left. Well, by that week, well, actually, the weekend that she was there, my daughter-in-law had called me and asked me if I would come up to her house and sit with my grandbaby so that she could run to Walmart and get my grandbaby some Tylenol because he was cutting teeth. Well, I went up there. And when she got back, because it's dark there, so I had he had put my flashlight on I could press the button on the side of my phone like 3 times and my flashlight would come on. So as I'm walking back to my house, I could hear something moving that I thought we had a bunch of stray cats. There were like 30 of them on that land.
Yeah, and that's another story for you.
Wildcats. So I'm thinking, well, I hope it's a cat. I hope it's a cat. So as I'm taking a few more steps, I start hearing this breathing, sound like somebody congested, hard breathing, I can't explain it really. So I thought, well, I better make sure, that's a cat. So I turned my flashlight on, and I put my light in that direction, and lo and behold, there it was.
Once again, it's basically how it happened the first time.
And this is no lie. I can't explain except it was like my heart and my soul hit the bottom of my stomach. I started trembling. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it to the house because my legs were shaking so bad. I started praying because I know that it's going to get me this time. Because when I went back the second time, I could hear it walking because it was big. You could hear it take the steps. So when I looked back the second time, it had got out of the dark. It had walked out of the dark spot and into where I could see it. But it turned sideways real quick, like, I'm not looking at you. Like, it was
a trickster.
Yes.
And we're
so
going to get into that a little later on.
I kept praying, and I said, God, please let me make it to the front of this vehicle, and I'm going to take off jet. Because I only had a few feet after I got to the front of the vehicle. I only had a few feet to the front door. So I got to the front, and I took off running. We only had 3 little steps up to her door, but I don't know how I made it up, but to be honest with you, because my legs were trembling so bad. When I got in the house, I looked back, it had dropped on its all fours and was running like, it looked like a big old gorilla, oversized gorilla. So I get in the house and I scream, like, after I got in the door, it just had come out of me. I wailed, it woke Roger up, and my friend was already awake. And I got the door locked, and I made it to my love seat, and I could make it no further. And I just sat down on it, like, shaking, my whole body shaking. So my friend is on a walker, so she keeps screaming, Julie, what's wrong with you? What is it? What is it? What is it? And when I finally made it in there, and then here come Roger. And I said, he's out there. It ran me in the house. It ran me in the house. So Roger opens the door, and he couldn't see nothing. We wasn't about to go out there.
No, there were no guns that we had.
We weren't about to go out there and like look, search for it.
I promise you.
That's how.
Tell them about how it did Angie when she got there.
Yes, well, all that week she was already a believer.
It had already been doing this to all of us that lived there.
It had started picking all around our trailer, got on top of the trailer, felt like it was. I mean, you could hear
we had a tree
the
that
seams in the roof.
It dented the roof so bad it was ridiculous, and we had a tree that went right up the backside.
But it
of
was
the
a
trailer.
small tree.
Yeah,
It was a small tree.
It used it for leverage to get up there. This thing's like a foot tall, so.
But anyway, whew,
She's.
I couldn't go to sleep after that. So finally, my friend, she said, "Come in here and sit with me, and let's talk." And she was jerking all over too when I got in there, because all that week she was scared, and you know she was on a walker, and after it started picking, and she knew something was out there. She wouldn't even stay at the house while I went down. How far was the store? 2 miles?
She would get in the car.
I would have to load her up, and it would take me like 20 minutes to load her up, and
Yeah.
I would have to load her up, and she would not stay at that place by herself.
Oh Lord, she got a good one though, guys. Listen.
I calmed down in there at night, but she said, Julie, next day she said, Julie, I was worried about you. It took you 2 hours to get your color back. Like my soul left my body, it felt.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
But I couldn't sleep that night, even when I went back and lay down, and I got to thinking, it's toying with us.
Yes.
It's terrorizing us. Because if it wanted me, it could have done got me twice, but it didn't.
Yes. She's gonna tell you about her
that
friends.
That week goes by. That next weekend, after she was there, she met up with her boyfriend. Well, we grew up with him, you know, and he's got one of them badass boys that, you know, we whoop your ass if you get out of line.
Yeah, he spent his whole adult life in prison.
He
had no fear. He had no fear until
probably that night.
And trust me, we tried to tell this guy about it.
We told him.
He laughed at us.
Okay. He came on a Thursday, I think.
She was relieved he was there because she was like, "Oh, now there's there's more men here now."
Yeah,
you know,
plus, you know,
and he didn't care. Well,
we
didn't think
he wasn't no joke.
We didn't think he cared anyway. Not too much, or he wouldn't care too much. But I told him, I said, "This thing's like 8 foot tall, dude. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to."
Well,
and he laughed. He thought we were just pulling his chain because he was out in the country. He grew up in the city. But finish it, baby. I'm sorry. Stepping on you.
So anyway, him and her was in her bedroom, and I was in our bedroom, me and Roger. And I went to sleep, and I woke up to, Julie, Roger, Julie, Roger. And I jump up, and I go through open the door, go, you know, there he is. Tears just flowing. What is it? What is it? And I'm like, what? I'm half asleep. I start walking down there, and she and my friend, this one, Julie, is out there. Julie is out there. So I get to her door, and there it was, right on the other side, on the outside. And it was growling. So loud that it was literally vibrating the floor. So at this time, you know, I had done thought, it's toying with us. It's getting off on making us, putting fear in us. So out of anger, I just beat on that ball and I said, shut the fuck up. Well, it did for a few seconds. And we could hear it, the bushes out, the ground outside walking.
There were bushes around the trailer she was talking about.
And then we didn't hear it. And then just a few seconds more, it was on my friend's bedroom window doing the same growling.
And by this time, her old man, though,
And that's where they slept.
he had done lost his.
So he's crying and he's
A grown man
swearing
cried.
to God that he was going to, as soon as daylight come, he was getting out of there, and he didn't care if he had to walk out of there.
That's been a good deal. It's been going a year and a half now. We haven't seen him since.
And he said he would never be back, and he didn't come back.
It did this all
and
night
we had
long.
several more that said they'd never come back, and they didn't.
It loved to come up and tap on the windows, guys. It loved to tap on the walls.
It toyed with us, is what it did.
And I think it fed off fear. I truly do. We learned a lot about it, and one of the worst things that I can say, and it really was a worst thing, is that over time we actually got comfortable with this damn thing being there. Not really so much comfortable, but I don't know how to explain it. When that thing was there, we could feel that thing was there. When it wasn't there, we knew it wasn't there.
We had a Chorky, and it was our baby. I had that dog for 14.
He was the best alarm for that thing ever.
Yes.
You just had to watch him.
And it was sad because
he would pee. He would pee himself.
yes,
He
and
would
he
get
would
so nervous.
start shaking
Yes.
real bad,
Yes.
and doing this,
Yes.
like he was crying, and he would be right every time.
And another thing, me and Julie, we've talked about this a lot over time, and we've told a lot of people, and of course they all laugh, and that's where we get a lot of our stories from, because these people actually come and stayed with us, and never would come back. A thing about that area, the people that live in that area, they've undoubtedly knew that thing was in that valley. I'm assuming that it's
They
always
don't
been
have
there.
cookouts?
They don't have cookouts. They don't come out at nighttime.
They don't have animals tied up outside.
They all have motion sensor lights.
We did too, eventually.
They will not talk about this thing. I mean, absolutely, you will not get, and you won't get them to say nothing about it. And finally, we did get two younger fellas that wasn't from the area, to actually say something about this creature. And he just thought he was going insane. He thought he was going insane. And he even went to the extent to try to capture it on video, which
He
means
did capture.
He
But
caught
only
something.
got. What did he say?
He
It
was trying to
like
get us to look at his video, and he said, "Man, I thought I was losing it." And when he was telling this, and he said, "I've told him," and he said he don't believe me, and it was just good. This all happened while Julie was having a yard sale. This guy showed up, and him and his buddy, to buy some. There was some. I had some, I think, some fish poles or something there, and they wanted them, and they struck up a conversation with us. And and Julie brought up, "Man, y'all ain't never seen nothing done in that area that kind of." And this guy said, "Oh my," he just kind of.
No, the first dude asked me, the one that brought the other dude there. He asked me, "Is that house over there haunted? I heard that house was haunted." And I said, "You better well damn believe it."
And
It's
that's more stories. That's
haunted."
more
And
stories. for me.
so then he brings his buddy there, and I'm just a people person. I can get along with anybody. And
It's true.
so, it was bothering us so bad at that time. Like, it's right before we left. We left, like, 2-3 weeks after this?
Yeah.
And I even had my house blessed so it doesn't follow me.
Yeah, we actually had the house. Yeah, Julie
Yes.
did have our house blessed
So,
by two preachers, and
Yes.
and that's how this is. It was weighing heavy on her. It really had bothered her bad. This thing, and it wasn't just this thing. This, because like I said, we got a lot of stories.
I was the only person it chased.
Yeah, she had been really the only one that ever got chased through. We've seen it multiple times, but the chasing part, really, Julie was the only one that thing ever got after. And it didn't. I think, and it didn't really get after because if it wanted her, it would have had her. This thing could scoot, because we've got another story we're going to tell you about how this is when we actually seen this thing move. I mean, scoot on all fours, go from 2 to 4s, and disappear.
But I asked the boy at the yard sale,
Yeah, sorry.
whereabouts did he live? And he said, down the other holler, which was a holler connected off of,
It's all
Our
connected to
road.
that valley.
and it was really close.
Yeah.
And I said, well, have y'all had any strange stuff happen to y'all? And he was like what? The first dude that came there, that asked about the house.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the other little dude that came with him, like, just looking at me like, what's she gonna say? Anxious.
He was so happy to have somebody to
And when
back
I
up his claim.
said,
It was
well, we have seen this big old, huge, you can think I'm crazy if you want, but we've seen this big old, huge dog-looking creature that's absolutely about drove us insane. And that boy threw the stuff down that he had in his hand, and he said, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you." Now, and he pointed at his buddy. He said, "Now are you going to believe me? Are you going to believe me now? I told you I'm not crazy."
Hey, his buddy turned picky when he heard us say it.
His buddy, he said he's been accusing me of being on drugs and everything, and I said, "No, yeah,
No.
it's here."
No.
And then we found out some more information about that.
Which we'll get into. We will get into it.
But it's real.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know.
Yeah.
I truly don't. And it has really took toll.
Yeah.
It took toll on me.
Yeah, because we went to, we have literally just left the place. Just it's not even been a year yet. It's,
Every time I drive, and we're at the foothills of Appalachian, so
they're actually selling the property, and because I'm sorry, baby, I just won't let them know they were selling the property, and
nobody wants it.
nobody really wants the property. But even if they do buy it, I wish they would really tell these people that what's there, because it's because there's cave systems all over the area. There's boulders all
People
over the
stop
area.
there when we lived there and would be like, "Is this property haunted?" Because we was told not to even be interested in it because it's haunted. So I mean, what?
It's more than haunted.
That's why one of the reasons why I wanted to leave from there. The main reason was because I just wanted away from it. Period. But yes, I told him. I was like, believe me or don't, but I don't know what it is. I guess you could just buy it and figure it out yourself because we're getting the hell out of here.
But also, that house, I was telling you about all the death and stuff that took place earlier. That house during the battle for Blue Springs, that house was used as a field hospital for Union and Confederate forces. So there's a lot of death took place in this house. It's very creepy. This place has a creepiness. It has a creepy vibe without even having to go into the house. But I don't have anything else left to add. I don't know if Julie does. But I do want to say thank you for subscribing. Thank you for the views. Thank you for the comments and the likes. Thank you. And keep doing it, please. And we'll keep these stories coming and get some more people on this and to tell you some stories. And they really ain't stories. They're encounters. But I say stories because it's so many of them because of the time that we were there, and that's why I say stories. So don't But I want to thank you. Do you have anything else you want to add, baby?
No. I'm not. Till the next time.
Okay, yeah, till the next time. Thank you guys. See you.